Welcome. This is Kelly Baird with bQuest, and welcome to our first bQuest Connect. To kick us off, I wanted to just give a brief intro on what bQuest is and really our why for creating bQuest. bQuest is a digital platform that offers heart-centered help for individuals and families navigating the journey of life and loss by connecting them with resources as well as vetted professional services across 5 main categories to assist with the realities of caregiving. Those categories are really legal, finance, aging care, funeral, and after loss. Lauren and I created bQuest because we wanted to build something that would truly help make human lives better and easier in this journey that is often disconnected, fragmented, and confusing to even know where to begin. My why, unfortunately, became really personal within the last 3 months as my mom was diagnosed with a really fast progressing blood cancer. And I have found myself in the role of really supporting my 72-year-old father, who's helping navigate this journey with my mother, as well as they had made the decision to move my 98-year-old grandma from Florida into their house January of this last year. So really navigating this while building bQuest and really launching this product has been, eye-opening in ways I never wanted it to be, but also, truly eye-opening in the ways that all these amazing professionals already exist and exist to help individuals and families. To that end, bQuest would not exist without the professionals in this community who are amazing humans, and just as importantly, they're highly experienced at helping individuals and families navigate the journey of life and loss. And today, I have the privilege of sitting here with 2 such bQuest professionals, Adam Thein with RW Baird and Vanessa Johnston with Denver End-of-Life Doula. We're here today to discuss the different sides of legacy planning and really the importance of storytelling as part of that. So I'm just going to briefly introduce our 2 speakers today, and then we'll dig in on this topic. So Adam serves as the Senior VP and Financial Advisor of RW Baird. RW Baird is an employee-owned boutique firm helping families navigate the nuances of investments, taxes, family planning, and life events. Adam has a personal experience with legacy planning and loss and just why it's so important to really discuss. Vanessa Johnston is an end-of-life doula offering non-medical, emotional, spiritual, and informational support for those who are dying and their families. She's heavily active in growing these important and oftentimes unknown services throughout Colorado and beyond. She serves as the co-founder and VP of the Colorado End-of-Life Collaborative. So as I mentioned, excited to dig in. Extremely relevant topic as we all head into the holidays and want to make this time as meaningful with our friends and families as possible. So I'm going to stop talking a little bit and kick us off and really dig in on more of the tangible side of legacy planning. So Adam, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with you and have you talk to us about what legacy planning means really in the financial world and how you and the firm work with your families to understand the legacy they want to leave.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of emotion behind it, but on the tactical side, it's really kind of taking tabs of a financial balance sheet. So kind of first stage is what's out there, where are things located, where are certain passwords, life insurance policies, who's the person's CPA, organizing everything out there. Are there miscellaneous bank accounts that someone didn't know about, or old investment accounts that they have not, been keeping track of for multiple years? And then tactically, who are the beneficiaries of those accounts? Who do you want assets to be sent to? And then kind of getting into the why of it. So why do you want things to go to a certain location, and obviously taxes are included upon that. So is there a situation where we could make things more tax efficient so the person that inherits it doesn't have to pay an enormous capital gains tax and get hit with a tax burden? So organization, planning, and kind of that preparatory phase. But then we get into a lot of the emotions behind it. So not only is it, the physical stuff, but are there certain family heirlooms that are important? Are there, certain memories that they shared as a kid, whether it's a vehicle that was passed down generation to generation, or a family property. Who is that going to go to? Why? And what's the best and most efficient structure to have that passed along?
Got you. And oftentimes I know you're dealing with, really hard questions that you need these families to answer, and on the spot a lot of times. If you're willing, I'd love to hear your personal story, how this impacted your own family, and how it helps you do the work you're doing today.
Yeah. So there's kind of one component that's a little bit more on the emotional side. Is my brother-in-law was able to interview my grandma when I was about 17 years old, and we were able to learn a lot about her that I never knew. So, her childhood memories, how she met my grandpa, some of those components. So just the tactical, the side of it that's more emotional, of learning values and principles that are passed down that as a kid I didn't think to ask. So the legacy component there obviously is that financial side and transition of physical assets, but the emotional side behind it and the principles that are tied to those assets, I think, are really the driving force of why this is important.
Yeah, and perfect segue into, a lot of times people know of legacy planning based on this, tangible side of it, but what sometimes isn't as concentrated on and is equally as important is kind of the intangible side. So, Vanessa, I'd love to hear from you on what legacy planning means in your line of work, and really how you work with individuals and families.
Sure. So as an end-of-life doula, I offer non-medical support to people who are dying and their families. And I do this with three main aspects. The first is life review. The second is visual planning. And the third is legacy projects. So another way we can think about legacy projects is to call it a remembrance project. Because we're really reflecting on the person who's dying, who they've been in their life, and their impact that they've had on loved ones and their community. So, a remembrance project is focused on that, and it allows our hearts to catch up to our heads when someone is dying or has died. It's another method of processing that loss. So it's really important for the people who are left behind, And so while I think most people do think about the tangible project, a product of legacy, what money are you going to leave behind, what things, it's also the memories that are important, because that has a lasting impact on people. And so I like to give people ways to focus on that.
Yeah, 100%, and feeling that very strongly these days. And just, when you're faced with it, what are those things you want to remember? And it's not always things; it's people's voices. It's the funny things you want to remember about each other and together. So, along that line and storytelling, Vanessa, would love to kind of hear your personal story, and some stories of, working with families.
Sure, of course. Well, I can share a story from my own life. My father, unfortunately, died last year in October of 2022. He was a wonderful man, and he was married to my mom for 62 years. And he loved my mom's cooking. I'm originally from Georgia, so she's a very good Southern cook. And his favorite were her soups. And in particular, she made a chicken gumbo that he loved. And so when his birthday came up this February, we were trying to think of a way to kind of remember my dad. And, I thought, well, gosh, what if we all made his favorite soup? And so, I have family in Georgia and Florida. My daughter's in Pennsylvania. I'm here in Colorado. And so we all made his favorite chicken gumbo soup, a big, huge pot of it, and gave it out to all our friends as a way to remember my dad. And it just was a way to share the joy of who he was and to be able to talk about him to people who didn't know him. And so that was just something that everyone in my family, really it was a process that we all did separately, but we were all remembering him together. And so that's something that was just really simple and felt good. I have lots of suggestions that I offer to families. A really simple one that I tell everybody is, if you have a loved one who is dying, you can get just a spiral notebook, a blank journal, and have it by the bedside. And when people come to visit, ask them, hey, can you write down your favorite memory of this person, or when you first met, or a story that makes you laugh, or something about them, and just write it down. It doesn't have to be long, a paragraph or so, but after all the people come to visit and record their memories, then when the person dies, the family has that as a tangible reminder of who their person was. And it really does help people process that loss while still keeping their memory alive. And so that's just a really simple one. There are lots of other things that you can do. There are companies that make stuffed animals out of old clothing, or make blankets out of old clothing. That's something that you can definitely do. There are, besides products, you can have a process. If somebody was used to be really into the outdoors and hiked 14ers all the time, you can plan to have a group of people do that in their honor. And it's a way to keep their memory alive. Or even something as simple as watching their favorite movie. I had a client one time, her favorite movie was Rocky. And so every Christmas I watch Rocky to remember her, because that was something that was uplifting to her. And so those are just some simple ideas of how you can honor the memory of the person and the impact that they had on you.
Gotcha. No, I love that. And just your example of even, cooking soup, you listed 3 or 4 different states where everyone is. And I think that's just the world we live in. And so really finding ways to engage and come together and remember people, across states, but also international at this point, based on the lives we live these days. So I love that. Adam, to that point, I'd love to hear some examples from you on your families and the why on legacy planning and why it's so important, and maybe timing around when do people really need to concentrate on this. What is it, a stage of life? Is it major events? Like, when do you start really prioritizing these efforts around legacy planning?
So generally speaking, we want to try to plan as early and often as possible. If there are children involved, obviously it's important to have an estate plan in place, make sure beneficiaries are designated and buttoned up. And if there's young children involved, that there's guardianships in place. So we work through that. But when we get towards the end of life planning, there are pre-planning and post-planning checklists to go through. So one example of that is a client, it actually happened a few weeks ago. His father was in hospice. We knew that it wasn't necessarily a good outcome. and was able to provide the client with some checklists, but then also included, how do you want to be remembered? What are family values that you want to pass down? Some of that stuff. So he and his mother were able to check off and prepare for some of the documents that they would need, make sure that all of the accounts were listed as joint, so she had accessibility to them. So then bills could continue to be paid. But I think one of the cooler components that came out of that, there's obviously, the checklist item, but then there's the emotional side as well, having conversations with his father around what was important, what was his childhood like. His father had always wanted to go to Ireland to find the town that their family hails from. So he was unfortunately never able to go there. So what the family had decided through conversations while his father was still alive is they are going to take a family trip to that town in Ireland and spread his ashes. So the whole family will be able to get together, share stories, have conversations, share favorite memories about his father, and take a family trip to a location that he always wanted to go to. So the planning and the sentimentality of bringing everyone together and going to a location in honor of his father. So I think, without that, maybe they weren't going to take that trip, but getting everyone together and having conversations, and then through that process, having everything organized is a huge reduction of stress in probably one of the most emotional times that someone goes through. So if we can make things easier on the front end and let them go through the grieving process, that's obviously hopefully more beneficial and able to let the family be together and share good memories and make a very difficult situation hopefully a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, that right there just shows the benefit of the financial planning and the, thinking ahead of what's important and how you want to honor someone so that, when they have passed, you can really celebrate that life best lived. And, Vanessa, I know you're dealing with this all the time and in the middle of some hard cases right now. Give us an idea of kind of how you work through the whole process of this end of life legacy project, planning with your families, and like where storytelling comes in as part of that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, it begins with the life review because that is something that most people at end of life are open to. They're open to looking back over their life and sharing their life story. I come in at the last chapter of most people's stories, and so I don't know what has happened before. And so storytelling is really important. That's how I get to know people and know what is peaceful for them, what is comfortable for them. And so it's really a focus all along as we're planning for the vigil, the last days and hours of one's life. And then the legacy project kind of comes out of those conversations, because I get to know what has been important to the person. Were they somebody that was involved in the outdoors? Were they somebody that was a cook? Were they somebody that fostered dogs? Whatever the thing is, and how was that shown in their life? And how can we honor that in the future? So really, it's kind of teasing out those parts of someone's life that can be honored in the future, and really telling loved ones that it's okay to keep those parts of a person alive in their memory. So often during the grieving process, people don't have the opportunity to share about their person, and so it makes it really hard because our culture is very death phobic and not comfortable with grief. So people often don't have that outlet. So, I encourage people to tell stories about their person all the time, while they're dying, after they have died, even years afterwards, because it's had an impact. So whatever way you can find a place for those stories is going to be helpful for those who are left behind.
Got you. And to that point, is there and I'm sure you enter the picture at all different timing, but is in your perfect world to really do the work you do and be as impactful as you can, is there a, certain time you want to enter, or do you wish families knew that they could contact you sooner so they have more, help in the process? Would just love to kind of get more context on timing, how it works now, and maybe how you wish, if these services were more known, how it could work better.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that question. I can come in at any point, like you mentioned, and the end-of-life doula offers support wherever it's needed. And I feel like I can help everyone, but some people need me more than others, right? So I'll just say that. Ideally, I would like to come in after a terminal diagnosis has been made, but that's really difficult for a lot of people because it's all wrapped up in and how long do you pursue treatment and that kind of thing. But I can come on board at any time. On the other side of things, I've also, only seen people a couple of sessions because I have the same challenge as hospice, that people wait too late to call me. So the sooner I'm brought in, the more support I can offer. But it's complicated for people, so I understand that. And so yeah, there's all manner of support that can be offered along the way. And I typically stay with people about 4 to 6 weeks after a death. And if it goes, if the bereavement process is sort of complicated, I might bring in grief counselors and that kind of thing that are more trained in that area. But where I usually focus my work is from diagnosis, then through any kind of ceremony that might be held at the end, a celebration of life, a funeral, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. No, it's so important, I think, for people to know. And even, I'm sure, Adam, as you're going through it on the, tangible and intangible side, just even knowing that there's people like Vanessa Johnston that exist and can also aid and support your families. As we gather for the holidays, I'll throw this out to both of you and whoever feels like they can or want to answer it, but are there any recommendations on things, families can be doing to preserve a loved one's legacy or memories? I know you've thrown out some other examples, but just if you have any remaining examples, love to hear more tips and tricks.
Sure. I mean, I can offer that sometimes people find it helpful to set a place at their table for their holiday meal, just in remembrance of someone. I encourage storytelling in all forms. So if that comes up casually, great. If it's more formal, great. And if there's, memories around the holidays that are particularly poignant, just to retell those, they might be living in your head and heart, but to say it out loud really resonates for people. Watching movies around the holidays that your loved ones used to love, Christmas music, holiday music, carols, that kind of thing. Anything that's associated with a loved one who has passed, or even ornaments on a tree, that could be something that brings up memories for someone.
Yeah, definitely. Adam, any things that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I would dovetail on that and say share stories. So not only favorite memories, but stories from your childhood, parents' childhood, stories of grandparents. So along the lines of legacy, kind of getting to that why of how do you operate the way you do, and why do you do what you do? So are there, particular favorite memories that a parent had with their grandparent when they were young, or are there particular family values, particular charities that are legacy charities that people continue to invest in, and understanding the why behind why they continue to donate to those charities, and is that something they want to pass on? So I would say laugh, hug each other, share principles and values, and stay warm.
Yeah, no. I love that. I think in my own personal experience, it's more just ask the questions, be willing to be present and ask the questions that, a lot of times we don't want to ask because we're not thinking about it until, for me, cancer sucks, but it's also, a blessing to remind us of all the things we should be doing every day of, how we want to remember someone and why it's important, and, really, really being present. And I think that's a continual struggle as humans we face is, task oriented versus, why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? So, again, just blessed to be doing the work I'm doing, and blessed to know, you all as professionals and doing this work. Well, and I know we're close to time, but just want to give each of you an opportunity. If there's anything else you want to add, along this topic, or, wish more people knew, when it comes to legacy planning or really storytelling around protecting memories.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that is, obviously on the tangible side of transitioning of assets, assets are a catalyst to tell a story. So there's obviously a reason, a purpose, a rationale behind why someone's intent to bequest things to a certain location, whether it's a charity, whether it's kids or grandkids, and if that's for an educational purpose or not. Think about the why behind the why. There's really, it's so much more important than how things are transitioned, but plan early, plan often, and review your plan every year. Plans can change. So don't take it for granted that if there was something in place 10, 15 years ago, that the intentionality of that plan is still in place.
Beautiful. And I'll just add on to what Adam's been saying, that I think it's important once you get all your documents in order, I would challenge people to maybe write an ethical will, the why behind the why. Tell your descendants, why did you live your life in the way that you did? What was your philosophy behind all of these things? It's important. That's what people want to remember about you. And if you don't express it, then they don't have that. So I would challenge people to come up with, an expression of how they lived their life and why they lived it that way. And, maybe they could even come up with a way that they want to be remembered. Could they design their own legacy project for their descendants in the future? That would be something that would be an interesting challenge for most people, I think.
Yeah, and that's amazing right there. And I'd love to know if, is an ethical will something they can, just look up, or is that a template that you have that, you've perfected over the years of just dealing with individuals and families?
Yeah, it's something that you can do just casually. You can definitely look it up and have some guidance on that, or you could work with an end-of-life doula for sure if you wanted to do it more formally.
Amazing. Well, we will wrap, but do want to give people a chance to know how they can directly connect with you, Adam, and you, Vanessa. We'll put some resources and links on closing slides, but you just want to let people know how they can find out more information about each of you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can be reached at Thein@rwbaird.com, or just a phone call as well at 303-270-6322.
And my information's on bQuest, so you can find me there. I'm also on social media, so on Facebook at Denver EOL Doula, and Instagram at Denver EOL Doula, or you can email me. It starts with letters, so EOLDOULA Denver@gmail.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Adam and Vanessa, for being here. Thank you for listening in. We're really hoping you walked away with some good insight on why it's important to think about both sides of legacy planning and really the true gift you can bequest to your family in doing so. So from all of us here, have a great holiday season, and truly be well. Thank you.